Major storylines for Saturday's game between Boston College and Cal, and they could be the difference between a victory and a defeat for the Eagles.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want the latest news, details, and analysis on your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Packed episode today. Bye week. Was it actually a blessing in disguise for the Eagles, even though it came early? Players who have to step up in this game against Cal. And what are the big storylines we're going to be watching for on Saturday? Let's dive in. BC and Cal, they step off and kick off on Saturday. 3:30 start at Alumni Stadium. Hope you have your tickets. I'll be there in the press box. But there's going to be some major storylines to watch in this game. Many of these things are things that you've been yelling and screaming about after watching that Stanford game. This week, we saw in the press conference, Bill O'Brien listed what did they work on over the last 2 weeks. And he listed basically everything about football: passing, tackling, running, blocking. It was a great response to basically say they've been working on everything. So the big storylines are what is going to be what is BC going to need to get better at? What are the storylines we're going to be watching for? The missed tackles. That's going to be a number one. There's 1A, 1B, and we'll get to 1B in just a second. But if BC's missing tackles out there and allowing third downs, get explosive plays like we saw against Stanford and Michigan State, they're in big trouble. If they can limit that, have guys like Omar Thornton wrapping guys up instead of trying to blow them up every time, they're going to be in much better shape. So that missed tackle piece is going to be so critical. And you just got to know that Bill O'Brien and Tim Lewis and his positional coaches were hammering that when they had practice for these last 2 weeks. They had to have been. That's going to be a big one. And then 1B is the turnovers. BC obviously has let up 28 points in the last 2 weeks on turnovers. That is completely unacceptable. You're not going to win football games like that. Your turnovers let Stanford win. So you got to clean that up because you're playing a Cal team that is better than Stanford. And if you turn over the ball against JKS, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. So you've got to be cleaner with the ball. You heard about Turbo, and everyone is worried about, is this a big problem that's going to be coming up? I mean, I watched him at camp. I was there all the time. Fumbling wasn't an issue, so I don't know where this is coming from. But they got to clean that up. So there's that. You got to imagine he has been talking to his staff and working on, making sure that ball is secure, especially around the goal line. They have already addressed the center issue, which has been a problem not just with that missed snap, but for the last couple of weeks. Michael Crounce is the starting center. That's going to be something to watch for. Those are all the negative pieces of things that they got to fix. But there's still positives. It's not just that we're watching storylines where it's like, well, if this doesn't work, it's all doom and gloom. There's things that are working that could help BC continue to survive. Dylan Larnagin. Will he continue what we saw from most of Michigan State in the first half and a half, almost 3 quarters against Stanford? If they can get him going at home, watch out. Because we've watched him be successful. And, I've seen some critics say that, he dinks and dunks too much. I don't think so. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He had that pick 6, and that was terrible. And listen, that end of that Stanford game was rough for him. But before that, for the first 2.5 games, he was electric. And he was making the plays that he needed to make. So if he does that against a Cal secondary, and we'll talk with Mitch Wolf about what they could look like on Friday's show, that's a good problem to have. I think Dylan Larnagin being successful is going to be a storyline. Injuries. Now, I want to talk about injuries in a different lens for a second, because I feel like a lot of folks just think that BC is the only team in the world that gets hurt. I hear it a lot. Like, I heard a lot of folks like, oh my gosh, BC, what's going on? You're getting hurt. Every team has injuries. You talk to the coaching staff, they're going to tell you that. It's not a unique problem, but they're going to talk about it because if you're missing any combination of Jude Lowry, Logan Taylor, Bam Crouch, Quan Williams going to be out, Amari Jackson, like not Quan Williams, I'm sorry, Owen Stodmeyer. If those any combination of those are going to be out, they're going to be talking about injuries, and it's going to be a storyline. But you have a choice. You have a chance now to write that narrative, right? Either you can let those injuries define you, and good luck with that, or you do what good football teams do, and the next guy is up and he performs. So if Bam Crouch is out, is it Jason Hewlett that steps in? Is it Bryce Steele that steps in? If Amari Jackson is out, are we going to see someone like Marcellus Townsend or Isaiah Ferris or Max Tucker? These are the guys that have to step up. So that's going to be a very, very important storyline going into this game. Cal has their injuries too. The secondary's hurt. They have their injuries. But you're going to hear about the BC injuries. And I'm sure Pete Thamel will probably have a bomb between now and Friday that is going to go, oh, gosh. You need to hope that the staff and expect that the staff is going to have that group ready. The other storyline that we're all going to be watching for is that running game. BC, who has their longest rush of the year, is 13 yards. They need to get this going. And as frustrating as it's been between the turnovers, the lack of explosiveness, the inconsistency, it has improved. It's not like stagnant. It's still not acceptable. They need to get better. Cal has a group of linebackers that are very aggressive. They're going to go after Turbo, but you can also use that against them. So the run, the play action, it should be more effective against Cal. And then finally, the last storyline, home cooking for Bill O'Brien. As frustrating as it has been to see BC play on the road, and they're 1-6, 1-7 under Bill O'Brien now. They've only lost one game at home in the last year and a half, and that was against Louisville. BC plays so much better at home. I don't know what it is. We've asked at different press conferences, we don't know, and it's okay. It is what it is. But BC does play better at home. You have Cal coming across the country, and I believe that's an issue. You're playing at home in front of a packed crowd for homecoming for a parents' weekend. Take advantage of that. This reminds me. It kind of reminds me of like the feel of the UNC and Pitt game last year, where you need to play well, but you're in front of your own fans. Win it at home and continue that legacy of what he does at home. We'll talk about the away games on another episode, but that home cooking could be special for BC. Now, in our second segment, let's look at players who need to deliver in this game. Who are players that need to really step up and play better than we've seen them play before? I'll explain some of those names in just a moment. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Boston College, Luca Lombardo delivered in a big way. The kicker, who BC has not had a kicker in a long, long time, hit a 51-yard field goal and continues a streak of kicking well when you just had no expectation for this kicking unit. He's been a rock for BC. When the pressure was on, Lombardo came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Luca Lombardo is on a streak. And just like Lombardo delivered for the Eagles, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits the way I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in on live action on NFL, college, it's all there for you. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your fantasy team or eyeing a new lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Shout out to everyone who's made Locked On Boston College your first listen every single day. You are the folks out there that when you turn on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, you hit Locked On BC, you get your BC news, you get your analysis here, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, there's some players that need to step up in this game. Now, I could say Dylan Lonergan. He needs to play better than he did at the end of last game where he looked like a deer in headlights. Yes, but he's a young quarterback. I kind of expect that. I'm not going to badger him there. I will badger Turbo Richard, though. Turbo Richard has to step up in this game. I don't think the style that they're playing right now and some of the issues you've seen with the offensive line, that Jordan McDonald would be the better fit for them, and I definitely don't think Bo McCormick would be the best fit. Turbo's your guy. He just needs to stop fumbling the football. If he continues to fumble, then we need to talk about another situation here where we look at some of these other running backs. But for now, he needs to step up. We need to see more consistency out of him. Yes, the offensive line has to improve. There needs to be bigger holes for him to get through. He's not finding it, but another piece is he's not finding it. Like, there's many plays where he's just struggling to find the holes, and some of them are there, and he's just not hitting them. So it's a combination for Turbo. Like, the turnovers are absolutely killing them, and he's not really – the explosiveness that we are expecting hasn't been there yet. If they could find it, this would be a perfect get-right game for him. And at home, too. Like, it would be so great for Turbo, who's been much maligned for those 2 fumbles in the last 2 games, to come home and, like, rush home for 2 touchdowns or have a big, 100-plus yard game. This would be a perfect way for him to do that. I would love to see it. Another player that needs to step up for BC is Michael Krauts. I kind of talked a little bit about the running game, but you just made the move, and it looks official that Dwayne Alec is now the backup center, and Krauts is the starting center. This is a chance for you to fix an issue that plagued BC for the first 3 games, where Alec there was many times where he was struggling to snap the ball in the right spot. And Dylan Lonergan, to his credit, saved a few disastrous snaps from becoming an issue, but it eventually caught up to them, and we saw it in the Stanford game. Krauts can do 2 things to help you here. Just improving the snaps, like having more consistency there. Like, it seems like a small thing, but when Larnagin has to spend, a fifth of a second on a 2-second snap drop back, grabbing the ball to get it back up, or doing something where he's, has to twist his body in the wrong direction, it does impact how you run your offense. So that's going to be a big thing. If they can solidify that, that'll be good. The other piece with Krauts is he needs to be more of a rock up the middle. And that could help that interior running game, which has been a mess. Alec, his struggles with the snaps were well known, but he had struggles with blocking too. If Krauts can improve upon that and take that to that next level, that would be great. And even if he improves just a bit, that's still an improvement. So Michael Krauts, there's a lot of pressure on him, but this is his opportunity. I see him as the future of the center position at Boston College, and this game could be the chance where he kind of solidifies himself and really takes over as that center for the next couple of years. Additionally, there's going to be players, and again, I the storylines we mentioned with injuries, I can't tell you, like, if I don't know, because practices are closed. I don't know if Bam Crouch is going to play. I don't know if Drew Bowery's going to play. It's hard for me to say either of those guys are going to step up. Love to see both of them step up if they're playing, but we don't know that yet. We don't have the availability report until Thursday night, so I'm going to leave them out of this conversation right now. I will say that a name that I would love to see step up is Quintavious Hutchins. Q Hutchins had some good plays in run defense against Stanford last week. Thought he played decent, but he hasn't We've been waiting for him to be that guy. You lost Donovan Azaraku. You needed someone to step up. You have, I believe, your answer at the other edge now, Edward Kalengi. He's getting better and better every week. If he gets better and better, that means that defenses can't just shade over to Quintavious Hutchins and take him out of the game. They're going to have to also account for Kalengi. So if Kalengi is playing and he's playing pretty well, Q could have that game. This would be a big game for him. You want to be able to get some pressure without having to rush 6 guys every time. Q could be that guy. And if he has a big game, that would be really, really important. Additionally, another player that needs to step up is going to have to be Seamus Florio. Now, the depth chart came out, and Florio is still the starting punter. That doesn't mean that we won't see Andy Quinn this weekend. But Florio, his poor stats, if you charted it, it's like this. It hasn't cratered yet, but it's definitely, you started off at 47 yards per punt, and you're like, wow, BC nailed this. Then it was down to like 41, and now it's down to like 37. And that's like what Grant Carlson had a couple years ago. Everyone knows, the coaching staff knows, it's just going to get better. Get it back to where it was before. And if it doesn't, then you'd make that move to Quinn. But Florio, he needs to improve as well. I think this is a chance for him to really solidify himself and like go back to what he should have been for the last couple of games. And finally, Isaiah Ferris. This is a game for him to step up on special teams. I'm not going to talk about him as a cornerback here. Please, 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 just field punts. Please stop letting them bounce by you. Please, I don't care if you fair catch everything that comes at you. Just stop letting them bounce. It has been torture to watch because they're making every punt seem like a 55 to 60-yard punt because they're just letting everything go. Against Michigan State, they had 2 punts at the 1-yard line. It didn't get much better against Stanford. I think I wrote down in a note, and I don't have the number in front of me, but in the last 2 games, he's returned 1 punt. I don't care how many returns he has, honestly. If he just goes back there and goes like this and catches the ball, that's all I care about. That's it. So hopefully that is something that's solidified because it has been tough when you're talking about flipping the field. When you give up 10 yards every time because you let the ball bounces by you or you let it pin you in the red zone, like your own red zone, that's not good. You got to be able to fix that. So that is another person that needs to step up in this game. In our final segment, people have been asking me a question about the bye week, and I have a thought about it. Was it a good spot for BC? I changed my thoughts on this, and I'll give you my thoughts in just a moment. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel design standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, and thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every single day. Whether you are doing this while you're eating breakfast or in the car, thank you all who make this part of your daily routine. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you want a second listen, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. It gets into everything. There's coaching firings already. This is crazy. 3 Power 4 programs are already looking for new head coaches. They're talking about that on Locked On College Football. It's a great show. Check it out with Spencer McLaughlin. Now, the bye week is gone. And I actually had a couple people reach out to me and say, hey, AJ, what are your thoughts about the bye week coming so early? And yes, I hate that it came early when I looked at the schedule to begin with, because you have 8 games in a row starting now. That piece is hard to get over. You have 2 bye weeks in this season. You got one early and you got one super late. BC got no favors in this. This is the part that is really tough to wrap your head around. That being said, given what happened over the last 2 weeks, this bye week is actually a blessing in disguise. Because if BC had to keep playing, like think they went to Stanford. Think about this. They go to Stanford and then have a game the next week. Your body clock is all screwed up because you were over West Coast. You could have gotten back quick, but again, then you're traveling 2,000 plus miles again with time zone changes and playing late and all that stuff. It would have been a second straight game with wonky timing. So to me, that one piece is a plus for BC. And I think they do this on purpose. When you go to Stanford, they give you that, or Cal, you get that next week off. They needed that. They needed that badly because they just need to get themselves settled and back into their routine. Football's all about routine a little bit, and get themselves back into that. The second piece I think that was super critical for BC is they needed to get they got to get their ducks back in a row, basically. Like there were so many issues that they needed 2 weeks to just sit there and go boom, 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 and work on these things. Now, whether they fix them or not, the staff's the only one's going to know that. But, things like tackling and ball security and everything that Bill O'Brien said when he was, talking to the press on Tuesday, passing and running and all that stuff, it gives you a chance to basically get that. They needed that badly. Now, I have loved to have seen them have another. I think the later bye is actually the worst bye. Like you would have rather had that like at the end of October or something so that you can kind of like chunk this out. But that's another positive for this bye. The third one is something I'm not sure what we're going to get an answer for. That's injuries. On Tuesday, Bill O'Brien was asked if injuries have gotten better over the bye week, and he said no, it has not. He was pretty blunt about it. It's fair to say. We don't know yet what the availability report's going to look like. We saw the depth chart. We know that Jude Bowery is still on the depth chart. Logan Taylor is still on the depth chart. Bam Crouch, Mark Jackson. We know that Sire Torrance is off the depth chart. Owen Stodmeyer is off the depth chart. We don't know what that's going to look like. And I know you guys all dread it, but we're all waiting for those Pete Thamel tweets of, all ACC left tackle Jude Bowery is going to, something like that. The injuries, at least if you get a few of these guys back, that's a positive for BC. Like, they got banged up. And the ability to get a few of them back will be a big difference for BC. And that's another piece I think that's just going to be a plus for this bye week. So, honestly, the first bye week I think is fine. It has its pros and cons. But I honestly think it's more pros than cons at this point. Like, yes, you want a later one. I think it's that last one. What the heck is the point of having a bye week a week before the end of the season? Like, the ACC did no one any favors. If you go on Twitter, I know there's like Locked On Canes and there's a few other sites that have been like Louisville. I had a Louisville friend saying like all these schools, they're like, the schedule is terrible. It's like, it's catastrophic for so many different schools. BC is not immune to that. But this first bye week, I think is okay. Thank you all so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure to follow us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok. I'm everywhere. I spend some more time social mediaing than I actually do with content creation sometimes, I feel like. But I think you'll love us. If you have a favorite platform, check us out there. We'll be back again tomorrow with a preview and prediction episode with Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider. You'll want to hear his thoughts on Cal and what he predicts for the game. You're only going to get that if you subscribe to our show. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you again for another episode tomorrow of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.